but today we are gathered here to contribute to the victims of a massive earthquake disaster in Lebanon, Turkey, and Syria. So there has been an earthquake in Turkey, Lebanon, and Syria in February 6th in the magnitudes of 7.8, and just few hours later, there was a second earthquake that hit with a magnitude of 7.5. So it has been reported as the biggest destruction in the past 500 years. So far, there are more than 28,000 people killed in both Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon, and there are more than 62,000 people injured. There are tens and thousands of people that have been displaced, and it has impacted millions of people. So today, as the eTalks team, we have gathered up many different speakers from all parts of the world. We will have many different professors, educators, students, civil activists to bring attention and raise awareness for this earthquake. And we will also be collecting donations to Embrace Relief. And the link will be in both in the chat and the description. And I want to first welcome Ms. Carrie O'Rourke to the stage. Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Hi, Carrie.
Thank you so much for organizing this, Zainab. You and the team have worked really timeline. And you know, it's kind of true that I guess I should turn it this way. Sorry. It's kind of true. Don't come on planned events. You know, I happen to be traveling. I'm from Kansas City, Joseph, Missouri right now, traveling, doing some family things. And so to talk about and compassion, what can we, and by the way, I apologize for any background noise because I'm standing outside in the snow. But what can we do to present a passion 5,000, 6,000 miles away? You know, this disaster happened a long ways. We don't love and care about the people that have been devastated by the situation. You know, my students this morning, and one of them has family in Hatay. The official numbers are 28,000, 30,000, whatever, you know, these big numbers. But he said alone, he expects the numbers to be 100,000 dead. Because the whole town is big. And so here I am in St. Joseph, Missouri, and here you are, wherever you are, and we want to be helped. What can we do? We're too far away. What can we do? We can volunteer. You know, assemble hygiene kits that'll get shipped over. I can talk how they're doing, you know, check in with them, make sure they're okay. But most importantly, they need money to help them, the people who are there and able to do. But I can send some money. And so this organization that we have is to get that money in the hands of the people with minimal amount of administrative organization. But I also believe in the power of hope and compassion, and a message that says we're here, we're praying for you, we're praying for whatever we can do to help. And what we can do right now is give you some money, is go assemble some hygiene kits, or send some blankets or something. We can't have this happening, you know. And you know that it's that whole coffee cup. Once we share this cup of coffee with our brothers and sisters, we no longer call them strangers. And these are my students, and these are families of people I know. And Turkish families here in Kansas City just today, and they said to me, my and his wife and 3 children were wiped out. My husband's uncle were wiped out. These people died. Whole entire families died. It's deep sadness, and it's deep grief. So don't be afraid to friends who have family in Turkey and help them get through their grief. So thank you again, Zainab and the team, for doing this at the last minute. I'm sorry I missed, but I just felt it was really important to come on and say, this is important. We've got to, can't stand by and do nothing.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Carrie, for your words. And as you have mentioned, the weather is horrible right now. The roads are closed due to the weather. And what we're trying to build here is to send money there from Embrace Relief. The donation link will be in the description box and the chat. So thank you, Carrie. Also, welcome, Professor Islam. Also, Professor Islam from UC Davis. Welcome. We're so glad to have you in our live. So we want to hear some words from you as well.
Thank you, Zainab, for having a timely initiative. I'm really thankful that thinking about helping people, country there also who are not exactly related to Turkey. I was a strong affiliation and around 7 years or more, and I now learned in Turkey and Syria probably is actually it probably will continue to increase around 4 million, and it seems like their life got impacted. The bitter winter storm and the cold temperature, the life of the survivor, overcrowded conditions in places looks really beyond Turkey and Lebanon also got impacted. A global catastrophe, unimaginable magnitude. Didn't see any such earthquake last near and the good world impacts the same way. This terrible affecting everyone. Whatever the friends and families, some of them lost their, still looking for their ones, and the inaccessibility to them, and lack of food, medicine, things that people need to spend, and passions for the wounded. All from here, probably cannot give a hand in everything, but definitely money, financial support. It seems like there was an idea paying forward for a longer blood of when I was there, I called the ECMEC or pay to someone's paying the culture of the custom works and coffee shops. Tradition inspired them in this kind help others whenever tragic situations. I'm aware of storms and cyclones, and from Turkey where always tragedies happened in a number of other countries in different countries. It's natural for everyone extend in all possible ways, and I'm really was able to organize this fundraising event.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor, for your words. And as you have said, you have a connection to Turkey as well, and this is, a problem that has been, a prominent problem in Turkey since it is a very earthquake-prone region, and it impacted millions of lives in Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon. So thank you, Professor. So I want to give out a call to our audience that there is a Embrace Relief donation link in our chat, and it is also in our description box. So please feel free to donate. And I want to say that I believe our social media team will be sharing our WhatsApp number and our Instagram account. If you guys do a donation, and if you want to at least take a screenshot of it and send it to us, we can at least screen share that here and show it to our audience to show that there is hope from humanity, and we are all donating to a cause that will contribute to maybe thousands and thousands of lives. So our WhatsApp number and our Instagram link will be in the chat and in the description box. So if you make a donation throughout the live, you may screenshot it and send it to us, and then we can always share that with our audience. And what I want to say is that we have gathered up with many different speakers today from all over the world. And the problem is that, sometimes when there's an issue going on in any parts of the world, we tend to close our eyes, maybe, to set a, curtain. But one place's issue is everyone's issue, especially in a devastating earthquake like this that has been, considered the biggest destruction in the past 500 years. So, all right. So, if we are able to have our other guest speakers from a technical team, we may welcome them. And any last words, Professor Islam? We will have you again later throughout the live, but
about immediate help we could offer could possibly sustain to support the survivor children who lost people who lost the family members who are the resources. In the meantime, please ask other give their opinion.
All right, Professor. One last thing I want to ask you actually is that in our first episode of eTalks, you have mentioned sustainability. So in these times where we're all donating money or giving clothes or anything to help these people, what is a situation that we can do it sustainably, in a way that will, really impact these people in a safe way? And I think one of the ways is to donate to Embrace Relief, since they're, very involved in this. But for future, making donations, gathering help, how can we make this sustainable in long run for, organization like eTalks today?
So it's families lost their others. In other cases, parents, both parents, they have a long life prior to their adulthood. Immediate relief and shelter definitely, but over time, because of this disaster and then impacted, which officially 30,000, and it could easily quadruple in broken buildings. So there will be these people, whether they're financial or the other possible way eTalks, some network of these young people together using technology to give support, mentoring, and possible resources, importantly, financially, to whatever is needed. So that.
Thank you, Professor. I think there's a problem with the mic of you right now, but again, thank you for your words. Up next, we're going to have our, other speakers, and I want to welcome Professor Robbins and Sarah Shafiq. Welcome, Professor.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
Hi, Professor Robbins from Rutgers University, and welcome, Sarah.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Hello.
Yes, of course. Once again, thank you for joining us with this fundraising campaign tonight. And I want to first ask Professor Robbins of your thoughts, how we can make a contribution today, through donations, through Embrace Relief, which, the link is in the description box, but through other ways, and how we can, help these people in a way that that will really impact them, because this is not an issue for just this week. It's not an issue for just for today. It's going to last up until maybe weeks or months, since these people have been displaced and all of their houses are, right now not available. Welcome, Professor, and we are listening to you right now.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I also want to thank my student Marjan, who invited me to be here today. The class that I teach at Rutgers is all about how you can focus on a problem that you care about and try to put into action ways to address that problem. And so it's a privilege to be able to be here and bear witness to students doing exactly that, especially my student Marjan. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on global politics, but I would like to share a couple of thoughts that I have that I think could be relevant to the topic. So the first is my shared grief and sorrow for the more than 25,000 lives lost so far. The magnitude of that tragedy is truly difficult to conceive of. And mourning those that have been lost will be one of the many great challenges that lay ahead. But I feel our responsibility in this moment is to support the survivors. There's a Jewish concept known as tikkun olam, or repair the world, that states that we have a collective responsibility to make the world better, even if it's just a little bit at a time. And that this responsibility extends beyond just our local community to communities around the world. And in Jewish scripture, we state that anyone who has saved one person has saved the whole world. We think of each person as a universe in and of themselves. I know this is a thought from multiple religious.
Definitely, we have the exact same ayah in the Quran in Islam.
In the Quran,
so yeah, if whoever saves one person will be counted as saving the entire world, and whoever kills one person will be counted as killing the entire world. So those are very nice words. And I want to ask you, Professor Robbins, so especially for women and children that are impacted, what are some ways that in the future we can be a hope for them and contribute to their education and contribute to their lives from now on?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is always following their lead, asking them what they need and following through with fulfilling those needs, not thinking about what do I think they need, but rather listening to the people that are on the ground and providing them with the things that they need right now. And so I think the more people that we can provide education, the better, broadly speaking, but listening to the people that are there and telling us what that should look like and the way that it should be implemented. I think for something like this, we obviously have these immediate needs that we're trying to fill, and money's a great way to do that to start. But there will be a lot of changing needs over time for infrastructure, for policy changes. And so we really need to listen to the people that are there in terms of what they're telling us they need. Sorry, did we lose you there?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I wanted to add to what Professor has been saying with regards to how different religions do have a moral understanding of helping other human beings. And I think that's what's really very important at this time in our lives, is when something catastrophic like what is happening in Turkey strikes other human beings, regardless of their religion, regardless of their race, regardless of their gender, and all these different paths in life join together to help those in need. And what's very painful, I think all of us have been watching the news and hearing all these numbers coming up and increasing throughout the days, unfortunately. I mean, if you imagine, just like right now, I'm speaking to you from Switzerland in Geneva, and currently it's 3:20 a.m. in the morning. The earthquake struck Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, and other areas at 4 a.m. In if I'm already like getting very nervous, like just thinking about such a catastrophe happening where I live. And my essential point is that regardless of where we are in the world, we're connected through one means, and that is being human. When I contacted Zainab and she told me what the topic of today's live stream was, which was hope, and I thought about two things mainly. The first one was a Persian poem that says, human beings are a member of a whole in creation and of one essence and soul. If one member is inflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you shall not pertain. So the reason I was thinking of this poem is because what does it mean to be a human being? Like, we are connected in a much more grander way than just our different economic backgrounds, financial backgrounds, gender, race, religion. And at a time like this, I urge people, regardless of whether you're a student, a young individual who has just started working, or whether you're someone who's financially off, to question yourself. This one thing that I always question myself is, what am I doing for the world? Am I just a human being, or have I learned to be a human? What does it mean to be part of humanity? How can I become a better human? What does it mean to be humane? What is the quality of being humane? And when hardship hits other human beings, I think we, as those who are in a better condition, can answer those questions far more easily when we take action.
I think what I hear a lot from my students and from people in general is that the problems feel really huge and insurmountable, and they are just like massive. But I think reminding ourselves that, you know, when you save one person, you save a whole world. You know, if you just can donate a little bit, if you can just give whatever it is that you have that you can give, you can make a huge difference for someone. Even if, you know, you don't have the monetary resources to donate, and you can just reach out to like a Turkish or Syrian friend of yours and say, like, how are you holding up? How are things going for you right now?
That is so important, Professor, because, you know, when somebody asks, even if are you okay, that means, you know, we're all interconnected as human beings. This is not just, you know, a Turkish issue. It's not just a Syrian issue. It's not just a Lebanese issue. This is an issue that we all need to, you know, handle all together. And it is very important to be interconnected, as, you know, that's how we are from birth. And, you know, it's very, very important. So I believe we have Dr. Steck in the live right now. So we want to, you know, have her as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I applaud young people for doing this. Young people wouldn't have the same technical issues that I'm having, I'm sure. I'm doing this on my cell phone, so my computer won't start. Yeah, my friend Attila asked me to say a few words, and I thought, you know what can I say? I'm not an expert. I understand that you have a collection of experts who give presentations, and he said, well, just tell what you're feeling. And you know, obviously, I'm feeling very sad. I'm also kind of angry, and one thing I'm kind of struggling with all the time is that I'm trying to think, who do I know there? And I've been to Turkey before. I've spent some time there. I've never been to that part of the country at all. And I'm trying to think, who do I know from that part of the country? I have some acquaintances who have relatives there, and I would like to know what's going on with the relatives. I don't want to intrude and distract them from all the important things they're doing now, and trying to find out. But you know, that's kind of ridiculous to be concerned about personal connections. You know, this is obviously a humanitarian crisis, and it doesn't matter if you know the people, if you have direct connections with them. We of course are concerned, and I'm very concerned with everybody there, and I keep trying to remind myself it doesn't really matter if it involves people that you know, or people that you've met, or places that you've been to. You know how bad it is. And you know, I'm a physician, and I might be a little incoherent right now because I just worked for more than 24 hours straight at the hospital as an obstetrician, and
we appreciate you here, doctor. Thank you so much for, you know, being being here and making this call to people. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was thinking as I was there at the hospital, I was thinking I actually had thought before of going to work in that part of the world. I'm an obstetrician. There's a lot of young people that are refugees. I know this is probably the largest concentration of refugees in the world. I think there are millions of people, Syrian refugees in Turkey, internally displaced people in Syria, millions of people, and living in some of them in rather difficult conditions. And I'm sure that they need people who can do surgery and do obstetrics and so on. And so I kind of had this fantasy of going and working there. And I was thinking yesterday, as I was in the operating room with all the fanciest equipment we had, we actually did surgery to save someone's life. She was bleeding to death, and we saved her life. And we have a good blood bank. We have all the equipment that we need. We have skilled surgeons. We have reliable electricity and water and everything. And how would I do in a setting like in this disaster zone right now? It's really difficult to imagine what that would be like. And in the meantime, I'm a little angry because I know that some of the destruction could have been avoided had the construction been better, had there not been people, construction companies had not made shortcuts, if they implemented the knowledge that we have about what kind of buildings survive earthquakes better, and if there had been a more rapid response, if the people that are in control there were, really representing the population there instead of having been appointed by the current regime, that probably don't have the most qualified or most interested people in charge. If there had been more receptiveness to international aid, if I have the idea that the current regime in Turkey maybe isn't that interested in some of the people there. And I've heard really horrible stories about like Twitter being shut down while that was being used to coordinate rescue efforts, and people being arrested after they're pulled from the rubble, and all kinds of in legitimate journals, and in like the New Yorker had this article about how some of the minority groups there, like the Alevi Kurds there, have to organize their own support from their own networks and aren't getting any help from the government. So all these things, knowing that there's all this suffering and that things could be better, and then coordinating the relief response. I think Embrace Relief, from what I know about this organization, actually it's very reassuring. You wonder if the money that you donate is ending up in the right place. Is it ending up in the hands of corrupt administrators or in the government? I just heard Attila was telling me about how donations are being labeled with the Erdogan's party's logo, and when it actually comes from very different sources, and is the money going to the people who really need it? What's the best way to send money?
So that's why we're so glad to have partnered up with Embrace Relief. Yep.
Yeah.
So the link is in the description box, and also it's in the chat. If you guys make any donations, please feel free to screenshot, and our WhatsApp and Instagram DM information will also be in the description. So, Professor Dr. Steck, thank you so much for being with us tonight, and we really appreciate seeing you here. And also thank you. We're still gonna have Sarah and Professor Robbins, but I also want to invite Embrace Relief CEO, Mr. Osman Dulgeroglu, here. All right, Mr. Dugard, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us tonight. So we will, thank you for, making this partnership happen with Embrace Relief, and we want to hear a couple of words from you.
To you and you, such an amazing event. And days passed since the Turkey and Syria, more and more about the scale of the. I have many friends. It is affected. The 10 cities affected from some of these cities. The 60% of the city, the apartment buildings. The numbers that we will be increased much more. Many people are troubles, and it's a long time to these people. And every city, and they have like 40 family members one night. It is a big tragedy. Hard to believe that this has happened in uh, such an this disaster. Let's say happen in other as well. Let's see in they have earthquakes as well, and say strong earthquake. There is like of the life or the let's say just even 100 people lose in Turkey.
Mr. Dugirolu, there is a couple issue with the sound right now, so we will just have you in the backstage. Just fix the microphone. Meanwhile,
Right.
we will have you in again in a couple minutes. Just in a couple minutes. And again, thank you for your words. And we know that we heard most of the things you said, but at the end, I think there was a sound issue. So what's going to happen is that, again, thank you, Professor Robbins and Sarah, for being here. And now we will have Hafsa Girda from AST, Advocacy of Science Turkey, with us. And if we can have her with us.
Hi. Hello.
Hello, Ms. Girda. How are you today?
Hanging in here. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And, we know all the AST's, work that has been done for the, human rights. And we know your efforts to support people in Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon. And we have gathered here to, first collect donation to embrace relief and also give hope and a good message to people and also raise awareness for what's going on in the aftershocks of the earthquake. So we would have a couple words from you.
First of all, thank you for organizing this timely, meaningful event tonight. It's so significant, and I'm so sorry for what happened in Turkey, in Syria, in Lebanon, and my heart is aching with the people of those places. As a human being, it's impossible to stay indifferent and go on our lives, to say, as if nothing happened, even if we are thousands of miles away. And coming from Turkey myself, from the region, of course, I feel even more deeply. We are praying for them and also doing our best to be any kind of support, financially, psychologically, in many ways that we can, even if nothing could bring losses back. Referring to a Turkish proverb, I want to say that ember does burn, actually. Ember does not burn only where it falls, it also burns us too. And on top of these feelings, this grief, I want to touch on another aspect of this humanitarian crisis from my professional perspective, lens. It's huge, impossible to survive without, coming together, working in unity. And having already devastating impact this earthquake, this crisis, unfortunately, ongoing human rights crisis got worse, especially for those who have been suffering from discrimination, stigmatizations, and denial of civil and political rights. So when you consider that these people are really suffering from the cold weather, being homeless, literally being homeless, and limited access to food, nutrition, health services. Now, human rights, violations is something terrible. Even I cannot find the right words to describe that. And
you know what, Ms. Kudab, I understand the news when we received it from all the 10 cities. Even it's more than 10 cities, but the 10 main cities that have been impacted by the earthquake. It has been absolutely devastating seeing the children, seeing the babies, and I think all the refugees and all the
Yeah.
people, the minorities, that have been impacted by lots of these people. So
Yeah.
what can you say that, just as for us right now, what can we do for especially the refugees and the people? Because right now, we're all sitting in front of our computers, making or watching this live
Yeah.
stream, but there are people who are trying to survive, as you have mentioned. So what can you say that what we can do right now, and how we can encourage our communities as well?
Yeah, actually, the next sentence would be about that. Thank you for bringing that up. So, of course, as just Embrace Relief is doing, humanitarian aid is, I think, the first step to help these people survive, because they need food, they need, places to stay, so they need financial resources, and also raising awareness about, what kind of circumstances they have been going on at the same times in a balanced way, because in such a turmoil, I trust Embrace Relief. Oh my God, I cannot bring words together, because for whole week we are sleepless. It's terrible. So I trust Embrace Relief will do an efficient, a reliable, a fair work in terms of delivery of the aid, distribution of it to all affected people, challenging the discriminations and unfairness I mentioned. And I know this because we worked with Embrace Relief previously. I mean, besides my work at ASD, I also volunteer for the Set Them Free platform as the co-founder. And we partnered in a refugee project, in many projects, but I personally witnessed that project, and with Embrace Relief. And in terms of timely responses, identifying the matters and generating projects on that need, specific needs, which right to the point. These are main strengths of Embrace Relief. So, but for most, for me, the most important aspect, the most vital thing that I wanna share with you is that there is no identity-based or thought-based or faith-based discrimination in their work, in your work. So that's what matters most. I know that lots of Turkish communities, cultural centers are raising funds to support those people there through Embrace Relief, and I know that in universities, student clubs are doing the same work. At my university that where I'm teaching, the student association is doing the same. Lots of other, even non-Turkish communities is doing the same thing. I see that here on Long Island, other Muslim communities are doing that, organizations through Embrace Relief or through other organizations. So, first of all, to help them survive, these people will need, food and blankets and clothes. That kind of help will be the first step, and after that, it's gonna be a long-term support. It should be long-term, not just for 1 week, not just for it's a huge impact there in the area. So in terms of accommodations, in terms of psychological mental supports, in terms of health support, they will need volunteers.
Yes, I would really love to also add.
Yes, of course. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yes, as Hafsa was saying, there is no limit to people's help, and I'd like to add to our, and address our viewers that you don't have to simply make a donation. Donation is the first step to your help, yes, indeed. But reach out to your local pharmacies, reach out to your churches, synagogues, mosques, and ask if they're helping out. What are ways they're reaching out to the community in Turkey, Syria, and other areas that were affected. I myself, yesterday, we went to 2 local pharmacies and collected medications. The day before, we were working with the mosque and collecting funds and donations around the neighborhood. And yes, money helps, but also so does medication, so does old clothing. A few days back, right when the earthquake started, right when the earthquake hit Turkey, there were huge donations for clothes, blankets that were sent to specific locations in Geneva so that they could be transported to Turkey. Indeed, do also double check the reliability and double check the organizations you're donating to, double check the people you're helping to ensure that the right beneficiaries receive the resources.
Yeah.
That is so true. Thank you, Professor Robbins, for being here today. We're trying to right now reconnect to Mr. Dugerolo. Are we able to have him right now? Meanwhile, we also want to, share our barcode one more time to make donations. So we will both have Mr. Dugerolo and, all right. So I think there's a bit technical difficulty. All right. Now we will have, again, thank you, Sarah. And I want to invite Mr. Paul Mitch from New York to our, live. Hello, Mr. Mitch.
Hello, Zainab. It's good to see you. I wish it was under different circumstances. I'm in upstate New York in the Syracuse area in the snow, which
So you know how it feels for the refugees as well, and all the people that have been impacted by the earthquake.
and people that understand that climate, lose track of that aspect of it when we're sitting in a warm house and warm apartments, and it just strikes me. And Zainab, just so the viewers know, we met first when I was your world history teacher back when you were a sophomore in high school.
While we were conquering the world together, and now we're here changing the world together. So
now we
thank
might
you,
not
Mr.
change the
Mitch.
world, but we might change one person's world, right?
Definitely.
And as the speaker said so eloquently before, there's, these are the times. The one thing about the world being connected, we can understand a little more of what everyone's going through. And the earthquakes don't seem to recognize national boundaries, ethnicities, and religious beliefs, that we're all human beings and we can be susceptible to terrible things. And we know, once we know that something has happened, we can't pretend that it didn't happen. We can't act like that we're not a part of it. And sometimes you feel like, well, that's not my community. That's all of our community. We're a world. And, one of the speakers said, check on your friends. And we haven't seen each other in a long time. And I've been thinking about you in particular all week, and students of mine, from the region, whether it's Syria, Lebanon, or Turkey. And it really causes us to act. And just to speak from a world history standpoint, which was my area of expertise in education, oftentimes you see people who, for whatever reason, want to cut back on education, cut back on history.
Mr. Mitch, I will just hold you for 1 second. Sure. So I think we have Mr. Osman Dugerel with us right now.
I will do that.
Yes.
Please give.
You. Just, have him with us. Yep. If we can connect him. Mr. Dugerel, can you hear us?
Yes. Are you able to hear me?
It's been a little difficult. I think we can hear you. All right. Mr. Mitch, you may continue to speak while we still work on the sound issues right now.
Oh, sure. And I think the speakers you've heard from the real experts tonight, and I just speaking to the students in particular. Oftentimes we hear people talk about the study of culture and history and the study of religion and say, when am I going to use this in life? Well, to understand your neighbors, who might be halfway across the world. It's been a passion of mine, and to be asked, by you, Zainab, you had a big impact on me to join this incredible group of colleagues who I really would have enjoyed meeting in person. Makes me, we've always talked about, we're supposed to be people of action. We're supposed to be people who do for others. That's a big part of that. And starting with kindness and understanding each other, knowing people and what people are going through. But if you have the means, you should reach out and give. There's a other people mindset of people who are happy in life, people who care about others, people who know they're in a community, people who know that others would do the same for them. And maybe when we get past this, and for some families they're not going to, tragically, my heart and my prayers go out to them, that maybe during the good times we'll realize how great we have it. We've all been through a lot over the past few years, and here's a chance for us to say, you know what, enough of the negativity. When negative things happen, we have to be the ones who bring the positive, and we're charged to do that. And I learned that from you. You showed up I want the audience to understand, every day you came to class, it was first period, so it was really early in the morning. You came in with a smile on our face, and it changed the tone every day in class. And we always laughed about that and enjoyed it. And it's not false happiness, but it's an optimism, and it's an optimism that we certainly need at this time to bring to the table. And you've heard from the experts today, and I'm just honored to be sitting in the virtually in the same room. And I'm proud of the students, and just encouraged that you gave us this opportunity, and me in particular.
And I would also like to add to what
Yes,
Paul
thank you,
said.
Mr. Mitch. So what will happen is that right now we have Professor Palaretti, but before that, Sarah, just speak, and then we're gonna change the scenes.
As Doctor said, he mentioned history, and immediately what went to my mind was what an earlier speaker mentioned, where she was talking about how she does not have the facilities to do her job. And all that I could think about was, I hope we don't look back as humanity and go, what if we had done better? What if we had helped better? What if we could have done more? All of the earthquakes and the effect of the earthquake was to, what if we had built better buildings? What if we, as the government, had done a better job? But that's in the past. That's already happened. You can't do anything about it. What is important and what we have to look forward to, and the hope that we have, and the hope that we get every single day, where you see survivors, children, babies, newborns just miraculously getting out of the rubble and rescued. You have to sit back and just say to yourself, if in 10 years' time I look back to this event, because it's going to be written in history for sure, and ask myself, what if I had a bigger role in this? You do have a big role in this, because you're part of today's society, you're part of today's humanity, and you're part of the action that has to be taken in order to help these individuals. I'll share right now. I really do get. I'm not emotional, but I have goosebumps all over me.
It's been tough for all of us. This past week, Ms. Girdab has mentioned that this is not just a topic for today, this week, or this month. It will be a process that we need to help these people for months and months. So I understand how you're emotional. And do you have something to share with us, Sarah? I know you do.
Yeah. Last night, my sister, she wanted to sleep in my bedroom, and my younger sister, and I have bookshelves where she was sleeping. And I was looking at these bookshelves, and I had only seen just a few videos on Instagram here and there about the earthquake and how people were getting out. And I look at these bookshelves, and I was like, you know what? Come sleep next to me. I can't let you sleep near the bookshelves. Because I thought to myself, what if these bookshelves fell on her? And this was just my psychological response to the videos I've been seeing. I can absolutely not imagine what people are going through right now. I don't know. I don't think any of us can. We're sitting away so far from the situation of reality, but what we're already talking about is the fact that we're so connected as human beings, and we can psychologically understand the different realities that other people are facing. So once again, I urge people to be the miracle for others who have lost whether they're alive, they've lost family members. You can barely call them alive anymore. They've lost family members, they've lost their homes, they've lost their financial situation is absolutely catastrophic. So please, I hope you hear our voices. I hope you take action, whether that is donating money or simply calling local pharmacies once again to ask if they would like to donate. Of course, donating really does help, even if it's $1, €1, €1, one Turkish lira, whatever it is. You are making a difference when you're reaching out to the people in need.
That is so correct, Sarah. And, thank you for making this call. So I just want to ask, all right, that was really awesome. And I want to ask Mr. Mensch, Mr. Mensch, have you, this has been counted as the greatest, devastating impact of the last 500 years. And, we know that we are interconnected and we see that in history. We see that in with many different events. But today, I think we are more interconnected and more interdependent than, ever. And what I know from world history that, day one, we learned the world interdependent. And from day one, we learned that. And we are here gathered here today with activists, from educators and from students. And this is the time to show that we are interdependent. And I want to ask you, what is different from an earthquake that took place in 2023 versus even more devastating earthquakes in back in time? And what is the advantage of today that this is the time to help people more than ever?
Zainab, that's so well said. I mean, just when I started my career, which was over 30 years ago, the idea of having been connected with people all over the world and the country like we are right now was just never thought of such things happening. And, we don't compare tragedies based on numbers because, it's so, it's so impactful to individuals wherever they happen. To me, it means that people can come to help, can come to rescue. People know that it happened. It used to take, weeks for people to know it even happened with the way news used to travel earlier in history. But now we see the footage that is not the same as what, like you said, Sarah, you can't imagine that. And I'm not going to, try, but we can't ignore it. And we are interdependent, and interdependency is a duty in my mind. I think it's a moral obligation. That we have to put all the negativity that people are trying to put behind them. People like the students who led this group and invited us. And what I'm excited about, and it might be underrated, is just the fact that we have multi-generations working together on this as well, and being on the same team, and it means a great deal to me. And so I think from that point, the idea that we have an infrastructure that can get aid, I hope political differences, will stop, won't get in the way of what needs to happen, and start thinking about what we need to get done. So, Zainab, I really appreciate bringing that up, because I think education is so important. It's not just about your job, all right? It's about the world you want to live in and the world we want to create. And students like yourself are models for all of us.
We have a phone call. 1 second, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Can you repeat that, Leila?
We have an author that wants to come in.
We have an author. Yes, of course.
Okay, we'll get him in.
All right. I guess we have touched the heart of an author who will be with us in any second. I am very excited. I hope you guys are too. And meanwhile, I want to ask Ms. Girdab. We just mentioned education, and Ms. Girdab has mentioned the refugees especially northern Syria, and the minorities in Turkey. So these people, the Embrace Relief donations will also go through education rights. It's going to start from their basic needs, and it's going to go up to, what else? Can you explain that process that we need to follow in the couple months ahead of us, please?
Here or there?
So how we can, contribute to their education from here, and, how should, we can, how it's going to go there as well. So do you have any ideas, any plans in mind that we should, go to our state officials, go to anyone that is in charge and implement this?
Yeah, as far as I see, the break for the schools has just been, extended, and I don't agree with the idea, because when kids go to school, it means that life goes on. So in the breaks in the educational timeline is not a good idea. As just you said, that we can go and urge the state officials in education departments to take the education further. And also I'm sure that they will need resources for educational purposes, and they won't have access to those needs. So as just I mentioned earlier, this is a long run, not I mean, it could take years. So maybe we could go find kind of specific kids for each family who would take care of this kid's needs, educational needs or psychological needs, or I mean clothing needs. We could help them in that manner for the long run. And also we could organize online classes as in SETA, as both as AST and SETAM free. We organize so many online classes in terms of language support, in terms of
One
mental.
second, Ms. Girda. We have another phone call today with the live stream. We're touching people's lives. Yes, I'm listening to you. You are muted right now. We have news, but you are muted. All right. All right, Miss Girda, you may continue. We will have phone calls throughout the lives, and the WhatsApp has been very busy, but you may continue. I apologize for interrupting you.
No worries at all. I mean, I was saying that in terms of doing intervals in our support, we could do continuous work. Maybe Embrace Relief can organize this. We are working on this. I mean, it's very new, so we might be any help to partnering with you or with other organizations in terms of taking sustainable long-term support. I was gonna say something else, but this phone call break just made me forget about it. If I could remember, I'm gonna mention it. Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. We apologize. We have some donators, and I want to say your name. So our speaker, Professor Saif Islam, has donated more than $1,000 to Embrace Relief just now, and his son, Ihsan Islam, has donated more than $100 right now. So we are receiving donations, and they're calling to make sure that right now, it is said, and we encourage other people to donate to Embrace Relief. Again, there's a donation link in the description box, and it is there in the comments as well. So if Professor Pala is ready to the tech team, we can have him as well with us.
Zeynep, before
Yes.
going to Mr. Pala, I just want to add one more thing.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
Working on women's issues academically, I want to remind that women don't have enough resources in terms of hygiene products.
Totally.
Maybe we could also urge corporations, international corporations, to make sustainable long-term donations there, to help them with their needs. And in Turkish cultural, environment, women are not, not open enough to, express that kind of need. So before they ask, maybe we could provide that kind of support too.
That is very, very, well said. And, just for women and children, they are the two most, and the minorities, of course, but, as, dividing not by just genders, but as like a demographically, women and children are most affected by this. So thank you, Ms. Girdap. And I know that some universities like Rutgers, and I know many universities in the DC area, the Turkish Student Association, they are also in Cornell as well. They have collected lots of money. They have raised fundraisers, and the students there have been, doing similar things to what we're doing right now here. And I know some of the money has been donated to Embrace Relief as well, just like how we are raising this fundraiser right now. And they have raised lots of money for the hygiene products as well as the basic needs. So thank you, Ms. Girda, for mentioning that. Welcome, Professor Pala. We're so glad to have you today.
Well, thank you for having me. And thank you for organizing such a great event for such a great purpose and cause. I'm from Turkey. Of course, my family is far from where the earthquake hit, but I have many friends and families of friends living there. Some of them lost their friends and family members, loved ones. So it's a really devastating, heartbreaking situation there right now. And I encourage everyone to help them in any way they can. I'm sure you have seen in the news, and I've seen also in the news, also in social media, the situation is really, really devastating for the victims of the quake. And those times actually remind me how weak we are as humanity. But on the other hand, we have a great power of faith and solidarity and compassion to help each other. I think we have to put these in work to reach out to the victims of the earthquake there in any way we can. A small donation could go along there because of the exchange rates. You know, even the price that you could pay for a cup of coffee here could buy a blanket there. So it could make a lot for them and mean a lot for those victims.
That means a lot, and thank you, Professor, for joining and making this call. Once again, everyone, there is the
And
Embrace
if I may
Relief.
add, Zainab, again, I agree. I think Sarah mentioned that we have to reach out to our friends. No, not just donate ourselves, but we should reach anyone we can and ask for their help as well. Our local church invited us for their mass tomorrow to pray for the victims together and collect donations. I'm sure all your friends would agree to do the same. Please reach out to your friends in any faith from any congregation. I'm sure they would gladly help donate and not only money, but also whatever the victims would need.
That means a lot. And speaking of, local, organizations, so we have Pavel Maslak from New Jersey, and he's the executive director and spokesperson. He is actually the co-founder and co-executive director of Garfield Neighbors, and he's also a councilman. So welcome, Pavel. And just speaking of being how to be active locally, we're so glad to have you here. And I know New Jersey has done lots of fundraisers and lots of awareness campaigns right now. So we first want to get to know you, and we want to know how we can do stuff locally.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for allowing me this opportunity to speak with all of you. I've been watching the live stream on YouTube, and there's a ton of people on, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm very excited to be here. And I'm both the executive director and co-founder of Garfield Neighbors, which is a nonprofit organization that was started by my high school friends and I in response to COVID-19 pandemic back in March 2020. And we initially were doing a lot of food deliveries for people that were food insecure during the initial part of the pandemic, but we've kind of morphed into doing catch-all for all different kinds of issues in Garfield in New Jersey. And I really want to bring Embrace Relief to this because they are actually a local organization, so they are an international NGO, but they are also based in New Jersey, which is not too far away from Garfield. And during the pandemic, they did reach out to Garfield and they did provide food services to our residents. Embrace Relief, though they are an international NGO, they are also doing amazing work in the United States and to residents in New Jersey. And I just really want to give them a shout out. And, we are doing a fundraiser for them, and they're doing important work, especially right now with the aftermath of the earthquake and all those in Turkey and Syria and Lebanon that have been impacted. And, thousands of people have passed away, unfortunately, and the numbers keep rising and rising. And people's lives will have to be rebuilt after all this recovery efforts are completed, and the work won't stop there. And that's one thing I'm really stressing when it comes to acting locally, is where it's not just one donation drive, but what's going to happen in weeks, months, years from now. I think back to the earthquake in Haiti that happened almost 20 years ago, and the relief efforts after were very dramatic, and a lot of people came together to help people of Haiti. And I think when it comes to disasters such as one that happened so recently in Turkey, in Syria, we have to really be thinking about the long-term effects and how we can best support people on the ground moving forward as well, and ensuring that's sustainable.
Do you
And
recommend reaching out to schools, cultural centers, soup kitchens? I know, they raise fundraisers as well. So, can you talk about, as a young person right now myself, I have reached out to my school and asked my professors to, share this live stream and donate. And I want to ask you as a local councilman to, what we can do as students and any advice to, especially the young people who want to do something, but they feel like they may be stuck a little bit.
Absolutely. That's a really great question. And I also want to give a shout out to Mohammed, who's one of the organizers of this event tonight. So he is a resident of Garfield. He recently graduated from high school, and I've known him from Garfield Neighbors and his volunteerism in the city. And he reached out to me about organizing a fundraiser and a donation drive in the city of Garfield. As an elected official, I'm very fortunate to be able to say, yes, let's do it. We could put out boxes and help collect items in City Hall, our rec center, our library. So with his leadership and initiative of reaching out to people like myself, and it doesn't have to be a member of city council, the mayor, it could be the principal of your high school, your administrators at your university, and saying, what can you be doing to help the relief efforts? And I think there's two parts to this, where reaching out to people that can help support a donation drive, whether it be for items or collecting money, which again, right now especially, is very important and integral, but also collecting items, which could logistically be a little bit tougher to do. So I think also reaching out to other organizations that can help support you, because once you collect those items, what's going to happen? You want to assure that all those items will be going to the proper places and getting to Turkey and Syria as swiftly as possible. So I think, again, reaching out to people that are leaders in your communities, whether it be in your school, in your city, in your towns, and I'm speaking more from a US perspective here, but reaching out to them and partnering with them and being like, hey, whether it's your community, whether you're Turkish Syrian, or you're just someone that really does care about what's going on in Syria and Turkey right now, you want to do something and seeing
Yes,
what can be done.
that is, especially reaching out to administrators was a big thing that we have done today as well. So the all right. So I want to thank Mr. Minch and Sarah for now. We're gonna host you in Zoom for a couple of minutes while before I give the word to Ms. Girdup, we have a very very urgent guest here, and he will be speaking for only couple minutes. So all right, 1 second, please. And thank you, Pavel, for mentioning that. And I'm sure many young people are listening. All right. So we will have author Ori Soltis with us in any second. All right. 1 minute, please. All right. So meanwhile, Ms. Girdup, I don't want to go into this topic too much before we have an interruption by our guest. But he's here. We want to welcome you, Mr. Soltis. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
We're so happy to have you here. And, can you tell us where you are right now and who you are with right now?
I'm at North American University here in Houston, and I've just had a bit of a sohbet with a bunch of people who are now on their way out as I sit with you.
That's awesome. And, we're so glad to have you here. And today's theme is, spreading hope, compassion, and making and raising awareness for the earthquake victims in Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon. What can you say to the community that is watching us right now from all over the world? We just had a speaker from Switzerland. So, we have lots of viewers. And what can you say to them to donate, to make any difference? What are your words?
My words are pretty simple. It's a tragedy of incalculable proportions, and as immune as I think too often we humans have become to the loss of human life because it happens all too often. This is so spectacular, and that whole area has been so decimated by loss of life and war and being torn apart for now more than a decade, that to have this added is just mind-boggling. And I think and I hope that people will think very hard, not only with compassion, but with empathy, that is, feeling with these people, and then whatever we can do to help out. And it's not just messages of hope, financial assistance, because that's what's needed to help the area recover from the decimation. If people have not seen some of the images of villages and towns that are completely torn to nothing at this point, then they should seek them out, because it will provide a very strong, straightforward, graphic sense of what this region has been going through with the pair of earthquakes, really, the quake and the afterquake. And I would hope that everyone is more than as generous as they can be, more than generous.
That is, that is a
And
beautiful
you
message.
guys are doing what you're doing, by the way.
Thank you so much. And this has been, just for our viewers, we contacted Mr. Soltis just today, and in a very last minute, he's been in an event. So thank you so much for taking time to be here, and we really appreciate our eTalks team that is in Texas right now. So thank you so much for hosting you. Thank you, Mr. Soltis, for your beautiful words.
It's the least I could do, but thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Gerda, I want to, right now, Dr. Steck, when she was talking, she mentioned the government insufficiencies in Turkey right now. And I just want to mention that she has also donated to Embrace Relief. And we're so glad to have you donate, Dr. Steck. And, she's been saying that she has been talking to the colleagues and students all week to try to encourage compassion and support. Meanwhile, we're doing everything we can. There is a big issue going on in Turkey right now. And Ms. Gerda, would you like to touch base with that right now, please?
Yeah, what hurts the most, if you ask me, is two things nowadays. Seeing people are dying because of nothing. Yes, it's a huge earthquake, it's a disaster. Of course, it would have enormous outcomes in terms of negative outcomes, but it could have been decreased if the government would have responded earlier. Nobody knows that why when they were late. 1 day, 2 days. I was watching the news, and people from under the wreckages were just screaming, and their relatives, their families there beside the wreckages, the rubble. They were just asking for some machines and for professional help, and they just screamed and no response, and then died. They died for nothing. That's what I mean. They died for nothing when I say so. As human rights experts in the area, we are going to follow this issue closely. We are not going to leave it aside. We are going to follow it. They should know that. And on the other hand, there was something else. After the failed coup in 2016, hundreds of thousands of people have been facing discrimination and also human rights violations. It's a huge persecution going on there. And even in the earthquake area, even among the victims of the earthquake, they are being arrested. They're still, on this very day, they are still being arrested. Instead of getting help, instead of being rescued, they are just being identified and they are being arrested. That's what hurts most, I guess, I can say. And we are following this closely to through the human rights organizations, international human rights community.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gerdab. And what really hurt me as well is that, many of things, as you said, could have been avoided, and at least, damage could have been reduced, because it is not a magic or a fairy tale to know that Turkey is an earthquake-prone region, and the loss of, the buildings and the infrastructure, especially, that has been completely destroyed, even the very, very new ones that have been built 1 year ago, 2 year ago, because of the insufficiencies of everything that has been going on right now. Lots of people have been dying, and we're in the 6th day, and in the 6th day, we have to imagine how people are going to survive under the rubble and without water and food. But we're still praying and hoping for a miracle to happen for those people. And I've been so happy to see videos of babies coming out, so happy to see lots of people coming out. So yeah, and this process, the rescue team that are being sent, and right now the process that will follow after today and next week, all the donations will go to people that are in need to survive right now. The weather is extremely cold, and especially with the housing, it's a huge problem. And I want to welcome Professor Ikramo and Mina from Houston, Texas. Welcome, Professor. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hello, thank you for having me here. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for doing this as well.
We thank you for joining us tonight. And so we want to have a couple of words from you on how to as a community all over the globe right now, how we can contribute to people and support to people that are in Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon, and what we can do locally with the how we can donate, especially through Embrace Relief, which the link is in the description box and the comments. And we want to hear a few words from you, Professor.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously, it's a huge tragedy of epic proportions, and I mean, I can only imagine what people are going through on the ground in Turkey itself. I can only follow from the news, and the footage I've seen is really devastating. I just want to say, I think I was invited, because I'm a college professor, so I teach real estate, and it's kind of just an aside. In real estate in the United States, people, business people in general tend to, complain about too much government regulation, right? Because it adds to their costs, and they say, we wish we were free to kind of do things our way. But this, earthquake and its aftermath actually show that there is a reason for many of these regulations, right? So there's a lot of reports that the reason that many buildings collapse is because they weren't built according to the building codes that were actually adopted. And just today I saw a friend of mine sent an image which in the city of Kahramanmaraş, the building that houses the organization of the architects, I don't know if what it's called exactly, but the organization of the local architects is actually intact. So it's standing, and everything around it is completely destroyed. So at least the architects in that town built their own building according to code, apparently. But what I wanted to say mainly is tragedies like this tend to actually bring out the best in humanity a lot of times. I can imagine lots of people who maybe never even heard of Turkey or Syria, or didn't think about these countries for many years, and don't know anybody from these countries, are actually feeling for people, and they're feeling compassionate, and they are willing to give, sometimes actually giving. And so you said what we can do to contribute. Well, we can actually contribute, right? Including financially. And however, I was talking to a friend of mine recently, like 2 days ago, and he said, I want to send money, but I'm not sure, where I should send, because a lot of times, unfortunately, during these times of tragedy, there are people who want to take advantage, and they open, certain, fundraising things, and they don't send the money where it should, right? And so I was telling him, well, there's probably, reputable organizations that do the work, right? And they're transparent. And I said, well, something like International Red Cross and its affiliates, which in Turkey would be Red Crescent, is probably reputable. But then I was talking to somebody who's actually from Turkey. They said that's not the case, unfortunately, in Turkey. So I really want to thank the group, the team at eTalks for identifying a very reputable organization, which is Embrace Relief. So I encourage everybody to contribute to the best of their ability. Of course, that's the main thing. The second thing I wanted to say is, I believe the audience here is mostly young people, students, college students, high school students, and so I would like to piggyback on Pavel's remarks, which is young people don't typically have a lot of income, right? So even then, I would encourage, even if it's a small amount, contribute, right? So you will actually feel better, right? And everybody wants to give, everybody wants to help out, and it actually makes you feel better. So even if it's a small amount, I would encourage everybody to contribute. Beyond that, though, I think a lot of times young people can actually do more than just contribute their own money, but fundraise through different sources. So I can give my own example. I am a professor in college, and in our job, we are evaluated on 3 categories, which is teaching, research, and service. So service includes community service. So I'm personally planning to get together with some of my colleagues, including from College of Business and elsewhere, and try to identify maybe certain organizations in our region who might be willing to help out. And just like individuals, organizations also want to help. They also want to help, and contribute, and it makes them feel better. It makes them, appear that they're supporting the community, including the international community. So I would encourage everybody to, think of ways where they can help fundraise. There's, many ideas. I think Pavel mentioned a lot of them, but there's nothing that's too small, right? I was just thinking about 2 years ago. I have a daughter. She's 8 years old, and she had one of her friends had a birthday, and instead of asking for presents or expecting presents, this friend of hers said, donate to this charity, right? Don't bring gifts, but donate to this charity. In this case, it was to save some. There's a species of dolphin, I think, in Mexico, which is almost extinct. And so this girl was really passionate about animals. So she said, okay, so can you support it that way? And last thing I want to mention is you could actually do something like this for a selfish reason too. Like I said, I'm evaluated on community service, right? So if I do something like this, if I organize my colleagues and we're able to raise, let's say, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000 from organization, I can actually put it in my file. And, when I go for evaluation, they say, oh, this person did, a lot of community service. Likewise, for young people who are in high school, this would be something really, really huge to put in your college application. You can get to good colleges that way. If you are already in college, this is really good experience, professionally. You can put it on your resume, and you can basically develop your skills, people skills, organizational skills, leadership skills, and that would give you an advantage in the job market as well. So, whether you want to do it for, totally altruistic purposes, or if you want to do it for selfish reasons, I would encourage everybody to think about ways, how they can help beyond donating their own money.
That is, very good message. Thank you, Professor Ikramov. And one thing is that there is actually a link ready right now for people to just click and donate. It is both in the YouTube chat box, and it is also in the description box. And again, once again, you guys are seeing our QR code. You guys can scan, donate, and then maybe send us a screenshot through our WhatsApp text line or even our Instagram DMs. So that is very ready. And thank you, Professor, once again for joining. And I want to give the mic to Mina from Houston, Texas. Welcome, Mina.
Thank you so much for having me. So first of all, I want to give a little brief overview of what I think of the whole situation. I don't think there was a lot of people who talked about, you know, the religious or like philosophical aspect of this, as mostly, you know, Muslim countries were affected. Obviously, this was not with intent or purpose, but considering that it is so, I believe that other Muslims should also support these people religiously and morally. And I know there's some people who don't practice religion or don't practice Islam in this chat. That's why I believe that they can relate to this maybe on a moral level, or maybe they don't want to relate at all. But I think that they should still try and understand.
You remember Professor Robbins, right? She had mentioned something, you know, from the Judaism, saying that, you know, saving one person is, you know, saving like the whole world, and you know, it is very similar to Islam and Christianity. And even if you're religious or not, from a philosophical view, if you guys have something to share, please put in the chat, you know, any cool messages and any compassionate messages from your belief or any other interfaith beliefs. So that's a very good point, Mina. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like you said, the philosophical standpoint is also really important, especially when people truly believe something, they want to pursue it. And these people in those countries actually believe these things. And even if somebody believes that it isn't entirely true, giving them this support with religion could be a really, really strong thing. So I wrote a poem. I am like,
We would love to hear from you.
I like writing literature. I'm very interested in a lot of the arts, but particularly writing. This is an entirely religious poem, but I think that somebody that is on any point of the spectrum could definitely relate or understand what is mentioned in this poem. So I shall begin.
Yes, of course.
I seek refuge in La ilaha illallah and guidance in Muhammadan Rasulullah. There is a fear that contains every soul, making them brim with impatience of what's to come. And one child is offered a handful of coal, while the other is offered so much glory he becomes numb. And even a tongue-tied child in the presence of the Prophet, when he is asked to characterize the Messenger of Allah, he speaks, Anta Rasulullah. He breathes, Anta Rasulullah. He cries, Anta Rasulullah, until every last person has heard it. Even when a noble-hearted father never lets go of his daughter's hand, even when a knight in shining armor only follows Allah's command, even when a seamstress refuses to stitch clothes revealing virtue, even when a bandit decides to help instead of hurting you, Allah sees all, Allah watches all, Allah commands all. So in face of a catastrophe, we mustn't find a reason to despise. We mustn't accuse and punish nastily, because the only stature we should seek is in Allah's eyes. We shall use the power of dua. We shall maintain our haya. We shall empower our sisters and brothers, carry on our back our fathers and mothers. Because this is Allah's plan, we are bound to follow His command. Choose to seek refuge in Allah, because to Him we came from, and I swear to Him we will go back.
Thank you, Mina, for that poem. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. All right, and I want to welcome, so right now I want to welcome Carrie O'Rourke once again, and she had a technical issue in the beginning. So welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really sorry I was outside because I was on the road and it was cold and it was hard to see me, but hopefully you heard what I had to say. And I think what I had to say was just pretty much a repeat of what others have said tonight, and that is do something. You know, the way we show we care, the way we show our concern, the way we embrace and embody our faith, like the young lady was just saying, is by doing something. It's not by just believing something or thinking about something. We actually have to do. And of course, you know, I always say, you know, the famous saying of Yoda is, there is no try, there is only do. So we don't need to try to help. We need to do. We need to get out there and help. And there's many things that can be done. And I think that's been said. I was thinking about what Dr. Steck said about, you know, she's an OBGYN in a big hospital with sophisticated equipment. And, perfect hygiene on everything, running water, plenty of electricity, backup systems, and all of that. And at the same time this week, I saw in the news there was, they pulled an infant, a newborn infant from the rubble, and the umbilical cord was still attached, and the mother was deceased. And how amazing is it that this baby lived? And they showed the baby in a little crib in the hospital. And all I wanted to say is, somebody come pick that baby up, hold that baby in your arms, and let it know that it's not in this world alone. Think about how many orphans there are now. You see them pulling children from the rubble, and their whole families have been wiped out. Their whole families are gone to heaven. And just think about just the sheer number of how many orphans there are right now. And then Hafsa was talking about the need for hygiene supplies. Can you imagine how dirty it is? Have you ever been like in a construction zone, and you feel that grit, and you like, I can't wait to go home and wash because I've got this grit on my skin from a construction thing? Thinking about living that and having that crust on your skin and on your clothes, and you can't get it off, and there's no clean water. There's no clean water to even drink, let alone take a shower, and it's cold, and you only have whatever clothes you were wearing in the middle of the night, probably your pajamas. Just put yourself, I call it the walk a mile trail. Put yourself on that trail and think about what it would be like to be trapped underneath. They pulled a young boy out who'd been under the rubble for like 5.5 days. I think he was 13 years old. Think about what it would feel like to be that kid. He's 13 years old. He's thinking about, pimples and maybe possible girlfriends and, worrying about what's going on at school or something like that, or getting in trouble at school. And all of a sudden now he's been laying in a pile of rubble for 5.5 days, and they just pulled him out, and he's happy to be alive. But at the same time, think about all the trauma that's happened. There's a man here in Kansas City who had 8 of his family members die. His grandfather it was in the news, and I know the man, I've talked to him. His grandfather was in the hospital, and the hospital collapsed. And so the grandfather's body was laying out there on the street or in on a something with like 100 other bodies. And somebody had to go and identify him and pull him out so that he could be buried. And they said there aren't even enough shrouds to bury the bodies properly. So, I mean, just think about the amount of grief that's happening with our brothers and sisters. It breaks my heart. And it breaks my heart to know that I'm here and I can't really go there to do something. But we can all do something. We can give money, we can give time, we can go volunteer. Our organization here in Kansas City is called Heart to Heart, and they're putting together the hygiene kits that we can go help assemble. And we should be careful to give it to reputable places. So that's why I appreciate this group. Thank you, Zainab, and the team.
Thank you, Mr. General, for helping us with this partnership with Embrace Relief. Again, once again, everyone, there is the QR code and our WhatsApp text line. You guys can also DM your donations, and we can always mention them our live stream. But I want to give word to Mr. General because we have been trying since the beginning of this live stream so hard to have us. And there's a proverb in Turkish that says the good for all the good things, there's always more little troubles coming up to avoid those. So I think we're on the right path right now with this fundraising campaign, since we had so much trouble, so much technical trouble having us. But welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Zainab. I hope my voice is good now.
It's beautiful right now. I think this is the right time for you to speak. This is what I get as a message from the universe right now.
I'd like to thank you and your friends also for organizing such a beautiful event. It's very meaningful, and thank you for having me. It's a huge disaster, devastating disaster. It's 10 cities and collapsed thousands of buildings. It's almost like 10,000 buildings collapsed. And every day we hear more and more about the disaster. We learn new things, and we saw the scale of the disaster is like growing. And there are still villages. No one reached the villages yet. When just couple people, when they reached the villages, they saw that many people lost their lives, and they are trying to handle the situation by themselves. Like wounded people are trying to help the others just get out of the rubbles, and also they are trying to put their loved ones into the ground. I mean, this is really devastating, and I have many friends also lost their family members. Like one of my friends lost just 40 of their family members at one night. This is like a big tragedy. As Embrace Relief, we have really received great support from the community, from everyone. And I like to thanks to everyone who support us. We have raised more than $760,000 until now, and it's every day increasing. And we started to help the people from the day second. We agreed with a company who is cooking the meal and transferring right away to the disaster area. We have sent one full truck of food, ready to eat food, cooked meal, to Hatay, another day to Malatya, another day to Gaziantep. And we will continue still to deliver the food in the first week of this disaster. Also, we have sent diapers, paper towels, toilet papers, also the utensils, these type of items as well. So after we sending like most needed items in the first week, we are planning to help the people to find house, and we are right now communicating with both Airbnb and some other hotel chains that has houses in Turkey that we can rent, because people lost their house. They don't have anything. I mean, they don't. It's like not just one city, two cities, like 10 cities at the same time. And there are 100,000 people, well, not 100,000, millions people. There were like 13 or 14 million people living in that area. So like millions people lost their houses. I know that only in Hatay, 90% of the houses. So on the field, I learned that 90% of the houses is not, I mean, you cannot use, I mean, you cannot get in. 60% of the houses already collapsed. Just there are 10% of the houses that can be used, good standing. So millions of the people right now, they don't have home. So we are planning to provide the rent assistance, finding the home, furnishing the houses, and this is from next week we are planning to provide this. Currently, some of the earthquake victims still need house, but like emergency house, we are working on it. But most of them still waiting next to their collapsed home and trying to find out their loved ones to have their body and find them, put them into rest, and later they will think about themselves, and they will move to maybe other cities to find a home and live live there, continue their lives. Again, I'd like to thank you for having me and organizing this such beautiful, meaningful event, and helping the victims of this devastating earthquake.
Thank you so much, Mr. Durgar. And what I've seen is that Embrace Relief is, as we have mentioned a couple of times in this live stream, that they're not just going to help today, or they're not just going to help next week, but this is going to be a process. All donations will go to, a process of making people find homes, get their basic needs and support them, all through the couple of, maybe months that will happen since this was a huge, huge disaster. Also, I just want to, before we end the live stream, I just want to ask to Professor Ikramov, Mr. Dugarolo, and Carrie, do you guys have any last words for our audience? Because, once again, the Embrace Relief link is in the chat description box, as well as in the YouTube description box. So any last words from you guys?
I would just like to say that embrace is the perfect word. We need to embrace each other, support each other. And Mr. Usman, if I could come there and help you, I would. But I appreciate from the very depth of my heart the hard work that you are doing. And I pray that you have the strength and courage to continue, and all your volunteers there have the strength and courage to continue. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
I just want to reiterate, I want to echo Carrie's sentiment as well, and thank Embrace Relief for their work, and wish them lots of energy and and stamina in that. I just want to reiterate that giving makes you feel good. Okay, try it. All right, and
now with the link down below.
Exactly, and also don't be shy to approach other people too. You would think, okay, spending money on somebody else they've never met, they will never meet, probably halfway around the world. Why would I do that? But it makes people feel good. So I'd encourage everybody to do it themselves, and also try to raise as much as they can in their communities, in their school, church, synagogue, whatever the case might be.
That is very correct. And again, whatever the scenario might be, because we're all in different places and we have gathered up here today from many, many different places. And so I just want to close this live stream by saying, thank you so much to our speakers, starting with Mr. Osman Dugerolo from Embrace Relief. Thank you so much for, making this partnership happen with eTalks. And I want to start listing all of our, speakers. I want to thank Professor Saif Islam from UC Davis. I want to thank Professor Nurdan Ikramov from California, and I want to thank Professor Nezih Pella from Florida, Hafsa Girdap from AST, Professor Talia Robbins from Rutgers, thank you so much, and Mina from Houston, and I want to take Powell Maslak from New Jersey, wonderful councilman. And I want to take Mr. Minch, my 10th grade world history teacher, but also someone today that we have just met that will, impacted our hearts and, that has contributed to this live. I really want to thank Sarah for joining us tonight from all the way from Switzerland. So thank you, Sarah. And I want to thank Dr. Steck from University of Southern California. I want to really thank author Mr. Soltis that has joined maybe for 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes meant so much for us since he was, he took some time from his very busy schedule to come here and give this call. And I want to thank our technical team and, most of all, I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in today and contributing and making an awareness tonight. And once again, I wish I could say this, for hours, but the Embrace and the Embrace Relief donation link will be linked in down below, and it will also be linked in our chat. So please, every penny, every cent, every dollar counts. And this is not just going to be an issue for us or for Turkish people, Syrian people, Lebanese people. It is an issue for everyone, and hopefully as eTalks team, we will be arranging more of these live streams in the future. Hopefully, when we hit 10,000 subscribers, we will have the option to open a YouTube fundraiser, so we can hopefully, with embrace organizations. So thank you so much for tuning in, and let's please contribute and support the ones that are devastated by this earthquake.